The gates of Windsor stand silent. In the hush of the palace grounds, two figures step away from the glare of tradition and expectation. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie move into a space of retreat. Not retreat from duty, but retreat from the glare of scandal. What happens when privilege becomes pressure, and when the daughters of royalty choose to drift into the periphery? Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. The story begins with a turn. In recent weeks, the eyes of the public have fixed on their father, the former Duke of York. The title is no longer used. A statement from the palace confirms that a formal process has been initiated to remove his style, titles, and honors. He will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. While this change is ground-shifting, it leaves the daughters standing in a space of ambiguity. They retain their titles, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, and their styles remain intact under the letters patent of 1917. Their status is confirmed publicly. Despite their father's fall, their status is unaffected. They will remain princesses. These are the concrete facts, the pillars of our story. But beyond the pillars lies a drifting mist of possibility. Reports from media outlets note that the sisters have quietly left the United Kingdom amid the upheaval around their father. Quietly left the country, some say, jetting abroad, others report. The timing is tied to the removal of Andrew's titles, the surrender of his residence at Royal Lodge, and a broader crisis of image for the royal family. The departure of Beatrice and Eugenie from the UK is not confirmed in full by palace statement. Yet the reportage is consistent enough to warrant attention. While we cannot assert motive, the existence of the travel is supported by multiple sources. The question becomes, what does this departure signify? In public record, two truths stand out. Firstly, that Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie will keep their titles, and secondly, that they are not working royals, in the sense that they do not carry out a regular, funded role for the crown. The palace confirms their titles remain, yet the phrases used, will remain princesses, status preserved, carry a subtle edge. They suggest that what remains is permissible, but possibly conditional. What the future holds, who knows? The sisters' exit from the UK cannot be looked at purely as travel. It becomes a symbol. To step away from the daily intrusion of British royal scrutiny is to reclaim space. It may be respite. It may be strategy. It may simply be personal. But it speaks to a moment of repositioning. This repositioning falls within a broader narrative, the monarchy under pressure. In a time when titles are harder earned than ever before, and when public trust stands on shifting ground, being a princess by birth is no longer a guarantee of public prominence or protection. For Beatrice and Eugenie, their situation is unique, intimately connected to the institution, yet tangential to its working core. The choice, or the need to step aside, is layered with meaning. Consider this. Their father's titles are stripped. Their mother's courtesy title is said to be relinquished. Yet their own titles remain. The preservation of their styles suggests a protective gesture from the crown, an acknowledgement of their innocence in the drama. At the same time, their low-profile departure suggests they understand that royal status now carries not just prestige, but risk. In the silence of their exit, one sees the shape of an alternative royal life, less about public ceremonial parade, more about personal space, less about headline coverage, more about measured presence. That choice may reflect a conscious decision to preserve what remains without risking more. What does this mean for the future? First, that the definition of royalty is shifting. Where once princesses were always seen, Now, some may choose to be less seen. Where titles guaranteed a place in the limelight, now the limelight can be opted out of. Beatrice and Eugenie stand as exemplars of this new paradigm, not exiled royals, but repositioned ones. Second, their story raises questions about legacy and lineage. Their father's titles vanish from use, yet the daughter's titles hold. Will they continue to sit on the edges of the public ceremonial family? Will their roles shrink or shift? Will their exit from the UK become part of a longer, quiet separation into private life, into separate identity from the institution? Third, this moment underscores the fragile link between public role and private identity. The sisters are royal by birth, but their path now walks outside the framework of working royalty. In leaving the UK quietly, they assert autonomy, yet their titles tether them to the crown. This duality is at the heart of their narrative. There is also a deeper layer. The symbolic absence speaks more loudly than presence. While the media chases scandals, the sisters' absence is a message. Not one of abandonment, but one of recalibration. They're still princesses. They still carry the legacy of their father and his lineage. But they also carry their own lives, careers, families, identities, not solely defined by monarchy. Their travel abroad in this context is significant. To leave the UK amid crisis is to step into a parallel space, one where monarchy's glare is dimmed, where titles still matter, but the weight of scrutiny is less. It is a move that asks, can royal identity survive in the exile of privacy? Can titles mean something when the spotlight recedes? At the same time, this story is not about retreat alone. It is about continuity. The palace statement that their titles are unaffected matters deeply. It means that despite the turbulence around their father, the institution recognizes a line of difference. Daughters of a prince may retain their place even when the prince himself loses public standing. This demarcation separates the individuals from the institution. It is a reminder that the monarchy still values lineage even as it withdraws privilege. And yet we must remain mindful of what we do not know. We do not know the conversations behind closed doors at Buckingham Palace. We do not know whether the travel was voluntary or counseled. We do not know the full reasoning for their absence, and we cannot claim they have fled or exited in the sense of abandonment. We know travel occurred, we know their titles remain, and we know the institutional framework now holds them in a suspended role. Their story invites us to reflect on the nature of royalty today. Titles are anchored in birthright, but rights of usage, recognition, and role are increasingly anchored in service, visibility, and relevance. The older contract, royalty equals duty, still holds, but duty now takes forms beyond public pageantry. A princess may step back, and that may be the new royal gesture. In quiet absence, the sisters may be redefining what being a royal means in an age of scrutiny. They may be saying, I carry my title, but I do not carry its burdens. I stand for my lineage, but I stand outside its theater. Their choice, if it is choice, sets a new tone, one of discretion, autonomy, and measured connection. And for the monarchy, their story is instructive. It shows that the royal family can preserve titles while allowing an individual to withdraw from the public glare. It shows that royals can reposition rather than resign. It offers a model for how the institution may manage legacy where some members carry the full burden of public role while others carry the heritage quietly. The image remains strong. The sisters stepping into airports, into flights, into spaces beyond the palace walls. Titles still in place, roles now fluid. They're no longer simply the daughters of the Duke and Duchess of York. They are their own persons, carrying the name of York, but not necessarily the obligations the name once implied. We may watch their few public appearances, but their absence speaks equal force. In that absence are questions. What will they do with their titles? Will they ever play the expected public role? Will they carve out a royal-adjacent life that keeps legacy but limits exposure? Their story is unfolding, but the early chapters suggest a different kind of royal journey. Not retreat, not collapse, but quiet recalibration. They remain princesses. They remain part of the crown's story. But they also appear to step into the margins of it. Let us end with a thought. The most visible move in royalty today may be the one that isn't made. The sisters' silent departure, their maintained titles, their repositioned roles, these are all statements. In an epoch of changing monarchy, they stand not above it,